Hello, this is Sam Simon, also known as Dementia Man, for our weekly video blog. And boy, do we have some special guests today. Now, I hope we get this up in the next week or so, but I'm not going to put a date this time because this is sort of in anticipation as well. My performance of Dementia Man at a senior living facility known as Balfour in Louisville, Colorado, right outside of Boulder. Um, and I am so excited to introduce you to Drew Percival. Did I get that last name right,
You
Drew?
did.
And she is director of memory at the Balfour. And then there's Stacey Flint, who is a consultant and works at a center that is involved in implementing something that I never was aware of, a Montessori method around memory care. I'm avoiding the word dementia, but memory care, and as a way to help build meaningful lives and, as I read it, for and finding purpose in life. For those of us who have a cognitive impairment, I have early stage Alzheimer's, as everybody knows. So, with that, I want to introduce Drew, who will then introduce herself briefly, and then Stacey. We're going to have a conversation, and what I hope we do is learn a little bit more about how Montessori implemented within a a framework that allows, because it's one of the things Susan and I, my wife, her partner, cognitive navigator, are thinking about that we may need to move someplace and be somewhere, among other things, for more companionship, less isolation. So, with that, Drew, welcome to Dementia Man's video blog. And I'm going to hand it off to you to introduce a little bit more about yourself and our topic.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sam. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to be here. Um, again, my name is Drew Percival. I am the director of memory care for Balfour, Louisville. I've been with the company just over a year. I've been an administrator of exclusively memory care for the last 5 years. Actually, my entire career has been in memory care, starting as a life enrichment coordinator just about 10 years ago now. So um, I was actually introduced to the Montessori approach from an activities perspective almost 10 years ago. It totally changed the trajectory of my career. And so over the past 5 years, I've been working in specifically Montessori inspired lifestyle communities. And I had the pleasure of meeting Stacey Flint during that time. And I wanted to get together. I thought this podcast would be a great idea because of course, you're coming to Balfour Louisville, and also sponsored by Balfour Longmont. And just listening to your story, there was a really sort of beautiful connection between sort of what the premise of your play is about and also what the Montessori inspired lifestyle is all about. And so I'm going to hand it over to Stacey Flint just to give a quick synopsis of what it is and what it means.
Yeah, hi. Excuse me. Stacey Flint. I'm with the Center for Applied Research in Dementia. That was Dementia. That is the name of the company that I work for. And I'm a Montessori consultant. Recently began the launch of the program with the Balfour communities in Louisville, specifically their memory care. And I want to really commend Balfour for recognizing the need for programming that supports a purposeful and meaningful life for people with dementia. We talk a lot about person-centered care, and Montessori really encompasses the ultimate person-centered care. The goal is, and what I work with the folks at Balfour with, is creating a culture and environment that really lays the foundation to enable their staff, their residents, and their families to create engagement opportunities based around the people who live there. So just like you and I choose the communities that we live in based on proximity, close to our kids' schools, where we work, all of those kinds of things. Why can't that be possible for people with dementia? Why can't they live in an environment that is reflective of the way that they've lived their lives? And, sometimes that's easier said than done. So my role with Balfour and with other organizations is to help them create that vision and enable them to really design their community around that purpose and meaning with the end goal of really that person-centered environment. So a community that's reflective of that, and understanding who they are. That's a piece that we often miss when it comes to folks that live within these organizations. But if you don't know who they are, how do you create a community based around them? So we've proceduralized the process in order to support these organizations like Balfour, and with the end game of really integrating them into their community and providing an environment where residents can actively participate in their own lives, make their own choices, and just thrive. So that's basic.
I do have a question, because I think I know the answer, but Balfour is different in a number of different ways that I think a majority of our listeners and viewers might know. Not everybody who participates in Balfour is resident in that they're proximate to, that you have living in whether a memory center or in what I would call homes, or whether independent living or assisted. And they also go into the community, or families who are in place in their home but are connected. And you might, this might be for you to just, it is I'm becoming aware of different ways of different types of organizations or independent, I don't know quite the word, but living centers, if you will, including more this. And I've also become aware that there are a number of facilities that have open memory centers where it isn't in a locked, confined area. And I don't remember if that's true of Balfour, but it sounds like it probably, I might be dependent on the individual. But can you just talk a little bit about how Balfour works, particularly compared to some other or typical other kinds of independent assisted or advanced memory care places?
Yeah, absolutely. Balfour has the full continuum of care. The two communities are a little different. Balfour Louisville has several sort of communities on our campus in which we have independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing. And I think what you were hinting at a bit earlier was our day program. So for those folks that are not ready or want to be proactive, rather, in terms of their memory care search, we do have a day program that provides some respite for families, a couple hours during the day, meals included, so that they can benefit from the life enrichment piece and the Montessori piece in a supportive sort of environment with their peers, but also still be at home and sort of get a sense of we talk a lot about in Montessori about procedural memory or forming new habits. So forming the new habit of the new place that is potentially their future makes the situation and the transition that much more comfortable.
So I just performed 3 days ago at the National Association of Adult Daycare Facilities. Would you use that phrase for that program as a daycare program or adult daycare program?
Right.
Part of what's going on, and this goes back to the Montessori approach, is first, a couple of things. The growing need for facilities, and with the baby boomer and their children coming into this era of life, baby boomers have driven the economy, and they're I'm sure driving this aging part, this part of aging, where you have just normal aging memory and challenges in life, and folks like me who at first thought it was normal and now I've learned it's early stage Alzheimer's. Um, and so I'm again excited. And so this is in effect to me, hearing that there's a daycare program for the community associated with the living, independent living, and so on. Is that roughly correct? You all view it that way?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stacey, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I can pick up from here, Drew. I think that you're correct, Sam, when you say that, obviously the boomer population is aging. They're entering into the time where they, need resources in communities. But here's the thing is also, first of all, I like to say communities rather than facilities. I think that's kind of right, a little better vernacular as far as that goes. But I think it's not just more, but it's better. We just need better. To your point, and what we're talking about today is that people with dementia can live active and productive lives. And when you have an organization like Balfour that recognizes a need to really create a guide for that and be purposeful about establishing a community where people can do have the opportunity to do that, even with a diagnosis of dementia, that's where we need to be. Again, when we talk about person-centered care, we need to be purposeful about it and avoid just using that word as a marketing tool or something that is a catchphrase that turns people's heads. We have to be, like I said, purposeful and go after it, right? And so when you select a program like the Montessori Inspired Lifestyle, that's what you're doing. So yeah, we need to be better. Yes, there is a greater demand. And back to, you had talked about what you call a day program, a day care program. I think when it comes to adults, sort of removing that word care,
Yeah.
it's an adult day program, so it sort of gets you away from that childcare sort of idea, but just to kind of touch on that.
Can I build a bridge right here? So,
Absolutely.
so thank you for that. So let's get rid of the word care. Now,
Mhm.
there may be some folks who, there's all complicated parts for it.
Oh yeah.
But the bridge that I'm want to build is how we can find meaning in a meaningful life, meaning purpose, and as I was reading before in preparation for this, some of the material that you all shared with me, that I understood that a good part of what we try to do is in this environment and in the circumstances, help give people purpose in the everyday life with whether you have a disease or it's just age. And I think it's complicated and I think it's essential. It's me. I feel like it defines me. If all I could do is sit at home and watch TV, and maybe turn this into a question. If they said we're going to teach you how to draw, well, if it was just to take up time, that would mean nothing to me other than frustration because I'm almost dyslexic. But if you're talking about finding the talent in the person, whether it's drawing or speaking or writing or singing or whatever, and then putting them in a choir or displaying their material and letting them give talks, there's a huge difference between those things. And
Yeah.
I was reading the Montessori as the first part is giving, not only helping find that talent and interest, facilitating it and letting them use it in a way that's meaningful, whether it's to the other residents or maybe inviting the community in. I don't know. Am I right?
I think I can answer your question in a two-part answer. The first thing I would say is as an administrator, I can't bring purpose unless I know you as a person and I know your story. So, and this is very relevant for anyone who's looking for memory care in the future. A really good idea to just be proactive is write out the person's life story. And at its core, Montessori has 12 principles that can be applied in all facets of care and activity. And basically everything is an opportunity for activity. And I can share the principles on the screen shortly, but Stacey and I always like to say that there's a principle 0, and principle 0 is to know the person. So very important to know what the person has done in their childhood. Where did they grow up? What was the family culture like? What was their occupation? All the good things, also, as well as all the bad things. Any past traumatic life experiences that are potentially triggering in the future. We know that as the brain changes with Alzheimer's and dementia, we can't traditionally express our needs and emotions or preferences, etc., like you and I could. So all of that information is super important to be captured in the early days before they move in, because oftentimes, where we're at with the senior living industry, many people are waiting until it's an emergency and something happens and somebody's in the emergency room and all of a sudden the hospitalist is saying, it's time for memory care, and everybody's caught off guard and we forget about the person, the human being that we have.
They become patients, so to speak.
Yes, exactly.
Right. That's great.
The second really important element in building a Montessori community around the person living with dementia is to identify their existing strengths. So everyone has strengths as well into their end stage, journey with dementia or Alzheimer's. So are they a physical person? Are they, do they like to walk? Do they like to get their hands dirty? We have a lot of people who had blue collar careers, plumbers, electricians, construction folks. They still like to be active. It helps bring a sense of meaning and purpose to them. We have conversationalists. While they like to be a social butterfly. They like to be super extroverted. They like to get involved in the community. They all different types of ways that you can be like intellectual and social.
I have two traits you didn't mention. I was a troublemaker most of my life.
We have those. We love those.
And an actor and performer. But so add those to your list. But I couldn't.
Yes. So I believe we can break the strengths down into social, cognitive, physical, and what's the last one, Stacey?
Social, sensory.
Sensory. Right. So we have we can sort of break out each person's strengths into social strengths, cognitive strengths, physical strengths, and sensory strengths. So there's an assessment that Center for Applied Research in Dementia has to help identify if they're not glaring for the person. And from there, we can build and curate activities centered around what the person's strengths are. And when we build on a person's strength, we're able to foster that sense of meaning and purpose for their lives. And it builds. You give someone, it's kind of like early development, right? If you give, my son is almost 9 now, but you give him a small task that gives him a sense of his own independence and autonomy, and it builds and it builds and it builds. And that's not, necessarily drawing a conclusion to children for people living with dementia. That's just drawing a similarity, rather, to human nature. If we give someone an inch, we have the propensity to take a mile. And that's the beauty of it.
And I think, Drew, ironically, what you're describing, when you went into, we want to, all of the different facets of it and, who we're building this community for. Ironically, that's exactly the communities that you and I live in, right? The difference
Absolutely.
here, people have a diagnosis. So the way that she just spoke about how you build this community is exactly how communities are formed. And I say this because this is not about dementia. This is just a organization like Balfour and other organizations that I work with taking away that word,
Yeah,
right?
the haze, I think, is,
Yeah,
That's part of my cause. But go ahead.
yep, that's your whole mission, right? You don't even like the word dementia. Like, so what we're doing is we're really working on changing people's mindset that, oh no, you're sick, I should do for you, which is lovely. And it's the way we grow up, but that's not necessarily how we treat each other. So we don't need to necessarily treat our residents or our day participants are we don't need to treat them as, well, we want to give you your independence, but you have dementia. We want to just say, what would this person be doing if not for this diagnosis? And how can we work to create an environment that enhances that encourages them to still do what they would normally do. And the beauty of it is, it's like I said, it's the same as the community, because they move in and they're going to meet other people that have similar interests. They're going to meet other people that have similar, backgrounds. And we're able to use Drew's word, curate, paths to relationship building, engagement, within the community as well as outside of the community, and replicate the lifestyle that they would be living should they not be within the memory care. So,
I so love what you guys are saying and doing. It is so important. First of all, that is not what typically is out there, by the way. It is counter narrative right now. And we're all, and it sounds like, on part of a mission to help change all of that. The overwhelming tragedy narrative. There is, and I think I'm hearing too, part of this is to try to integrate. There is a age and home movement, but I think what I heard about, maybe that's better about getting rid of the word care, is that this other before you move in program is part of seeing how long you could stay at home. When you're around the community, it's what I think you said, or you live, or say, I don't remember, but it's like where you live now. And rather than just throw you in a different place, there's some staging, if you will, or movement time. I mean,
yeah.
we're living in that. I mean, Susan and I look out my window. I say, we have neighbors. We're here for a long time. It gets lonely for us, believe it or not. It sounds odd. I perform the play, we go out, but we used to have events here. We used to have you go out for quick lunches and things, and it's different. And I think that's true. Part of this process. Then there is the other thing that I think is so interesting, and you've touched on it. I think people change with the cognition changes, and what they may have grown up as may not be what they're strongest as.
Absolutely. People change, and it's important to also consider that we are not in the business of changing people. If you were introverted and shy and kind of a homebody, I'm not in the business of changing that, but there's always an and in Montessori, and there's always a way to create a sense of meaning and purpose for the individual living.
And people change. Disease changes people. Time, but disease in particular, which is the connection thing that I do want to touch on. I have learned, I've been performing a show. So my response to my diagnosis was, there was a moment I was going to fold up into nothingness. I even had I call it in my play, a nanosecond of maybe I should go to Switzerland and kill myself. And because I'd done theater work, I was convinced to write about it. And I love that. And what surprises me, it surprised me the first time I wrote another play earlier, is I learned from the audiences. And one of the things I am learning, and it's not necessarily a happy thing here, is how hard this disease is on the family partners, depending on how much the person with the disease changes, even to the point of, in my place, of becoming someone else. That this Sam will go away and another person will occupy this body. That doesn't mean they don't have meaning, purpose, and interest. It's just the disease at work. So I see the care partner, the love partner, I like to call him, and how hard that's been on some of that. And I think you have to also, with the facility, I'm sure you are aware of that. And I almost think that there is a journey for them, much like the journey for the person you're working with, to help them find new meaning and purpose, and not in that journey. I don't know if it triggers anything you want to add to that piece of it.
I would like to add something to that. I feel like you've hit the nail on the head. There's a sub conversation and a sub benefit to implementing a program like this. It's that it's very engaging and purposeful and meaningful for family members, because this is a community. This isn't, sure, we have our labels, we've got our residents, we've got our family members, we've got our staff, but the goal here is to really create a community within the walls of these buildings. And the sub benefit is, as much as you want to involve the families and, turning the reins over to them. Drew and I, like she mentioned, we've worked together for years. We've had family members that lead groups, that they come every morning, they have a routine. The other side benefit is how it benefits your staff. I've heard from numerous staff members in my own personal life, Drew, I'm sure with Ohm, your son, that you've seen a difference in how you raise him. Just looking at life through this lens, viewing people as what is their potential rather than what their limitations are. How do you circumvent, the deficits? Because we all have deficits. It's just, the folks that you serve at, Balfour, Louisville. I did it again. Balfour, Louisville have a diagnosis of dementia, right? I mean, it's everybody has a deficit. And so that's the beautiful thing about this, is the difference that it makes in, people's lives beyond the residents that reside within your organization.
And I think that you'll find, when you have a really supportive community for all people living with dementia, that people will engage with each other more. And so one of the initiatives that we're in the early phase of credentialing Balfour, Louisville, but one of the very early steps that we take are creating visual aids and cues and signage around the community to help the residents with wayfinding. And our first sort of initiative in that are name tags. So not only do staff wear name tags, but we offer residents the opportunity to wear name tags and family members, so that everyone who's within the community is very easily identifiable. And I will show you my name tag just to give you a picture of how friendly it should be. In addition to, just someone's name, if we have a good comprehensive life history of the person, we can add like a small icon. For instance, I have a gentleman who just moved in from Texas, and he has a big Texas flag, and it's a very big part of his identity and who he is. So if you were a family member coming in to visit your loved one, but he's sitting next to the guy from Texas, that can prompt you with a conversation starter. And I know that memory or that part of this gentleman is a big part of who he is, and it's going to be very easy for him to pick up a conversation about it. Even if it's a conversation about, placing himself as his grandson working with his granddad on the potato farm or what have you. Some parts of our life are so ingrained in our memory, and it's a good experience to talk about them. And we just want to offer the opportunity and create an enabling atmosphere so that they can do that.
Yes. Do you have it handy? The name tag, your name?
I do. Let me grab it for you.
Yeah.
There's so many ways that we can do that. And I love, that Drew brought up the name badges because the environment is so important. And if there's a lot of programs, and you started off saying, the gentleman that wrote the book, Still Here, that he, pointed out that there's a lot of different programs that are similar but different. And I would say, when you're looking at these different programs, that the one thing that Montessori really, really leans heavily into is the environment and creating a supportive and freedom, like an environment that supports, independence as far as their movement, access to things. We're not locking things up. We're putting things on the walls that, are cognitive ramps for folks to be able to find their way around, to know where the dining room is. One of the things that one of Drew's communities did was they created with the resident sort of word art, right? Where within this shape that is something that is important to them, let's use the Texas flag.
I'm
Within,
from Texas, by the way.
you are, okay. So within that shape, there's an app for it. You can type in, the person's name and then all of the different things, one word descriptions of things they're interested in. Create a piece of art out of it that fits within a specific shape, the Texas flag. And then, making that aesthetically pleasing, however you want to print that off, however you want to frame it. And it's on everyone's door. So every passerby, it's not any, HIPAA protected information. It's just things about them that they love. And so anybody that walks by, if it's a family member of the person that lives 2 doors down, they know a little bit about this person. And again, it's a conversation starter, but just embedding things within the community that are cognitive ramps that allow for that freedom of movement and that independence. So that's what the name tag does.
I love the cognitive ramps. Yeah. And so we have a name tag coming up here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. I always forget it, so I left it at work. Let me show you a PDF of what it looks like. Just
okay.
It. I'll give you an example of a caregiver.
I'll mention too that while Drew's doing that these name badges, and you may have already said it, Drew, but I don't recall. They're not just for the residents. They're for family members, for vendors. How awkward is it when you're speaking with someone and you don't know their name, or you're trying to interview someone and
you don't know their name, but you don't know their name over and over again.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
you can speak to this more than we can, right?
Yes. I always say there's nothing worse than showing up at a dinner party or a community event and recognizing so many faces and you can't for the life of you remember their name. And it happens to me all the time. And if everybody could just have a name tag the size of my phone, right? And they are that big, and with text, huge high contrast text that everyone wears so that everybody's comfortable and has the opportunity and confidence to engage. So here's the sample name tag of a caregiver, which for the staff, we also have symbols for each of their departments so that not only residents, but families can identify, okay, what is this person and how can they help and support me during my visit or during my stay here in the community. So this is for all of my caregivers, but it's much more dementia friendly as compared to my official name tag, which you probably can't even read
right.
on this webcast, on this podcast. So that's just one super simple way you can implement a Montessori piece into your daily life. If you're having for instance, if you have someone at home with like mid-stage Alzheimer's and you are hosting Thanksgiving and you're expecting 30 people, think about how much more of a supportive environment you would be creating for that person by just having name tags that say Emma, granddaughter, Greg, son, etc. So super simple, highly effective. Just in the couple of weeks that we've implemented name tags here at Balfour, it was so funny. I was in the living room trying to trying to fix one of our streaming accounts. And from across the room, I heard, Drew, excuse me, do you happen to work here? And I said, yes, I do. And she said, I'd really like to go for a walk around the pond this afternoon. Is that something we could arrange? And I said, it's absolutely something we could arrange. So it's just, and I guarantee you that person would not be able to remember my name off the top of her head. She's only been in the community for 3 weeks or so. So simple, super effective, can be applied in any sort of environment.
Most
And,
people, when you're there and you see people, not just residents, everybody look down at the name tag and refer to it during conversation. So the people that think, oh, this isn't mind-blowing, I'm telling you, it is. It changes the dynamic immediately.
well, and again, well, I can go over it. Yes. Yes, and we're going to run out of time. We could talk about, maybe we have to do this again. No,
We could totally do this again. Stacey and I could talk about Montessori
but it's
to the
more
ends
than
of the
that.
earth.
It is part of, again, I started it, I'll end it with, I'm learning so much from my own journey. And, part of it, I'm an advocate for finding ways to have a meaningful life with the disease and the tragedy narrative and the closing down and the number of people, and that I don't want to start a whole new conversation, but who hide from, they say, I don't want to find out, or they have it and they try to hide themselves. I'm loud and proud. I tell you, one of the worst things that comes up I hate is that, because I'm walking to meet some people the first time, and I don't know why it come up, but oh, by the way, I do have Alzheimer's. The reaction is, oh no, no. Okay, other people have other things, and it doesn't matter. You may want to know you have to speak slower if I ask to have something repeated. There's huge, it's dignity, and you get dignity by having purpose and meaning in life. So from what I've learned just briefly, not just today, but the material, I hope we can help be part of raising that. I'm going to make sure I add it to when I have discussions. Maybe I'll have to add a scene in my play. But I really, really love it. I'm looking forward to being there in next month. And I hope that we might have opportunities to maybe do more about this. And I definitely want to make sure it's part of the materials that I have available and on my website too. Do me a favor, if you have if you can articulate a contact or website for people to get more information. Not, we can add to it later, because I'm going to do it about Dementia Man after you.
Absolutely. I'll start and then I'll hand it over to Stacey with regard to the Center for Applied Research in Dementia. So again, I'm Drew with Balfour Senior Living. I'm the Director of Memory Care at Balfour Louisville. Our website is www.balfourcare.com. And our Louisville line can be reached at 303-867-6385.
And I'm Stacey Flint. I am a consultant, Montessori trainer for the Center for Applied Research in Dementia. Our website is www.cen4, the number 4, CEN4, ARD.com. And my email address is Stacey, STACEY, at CEN, the number 4, ARD.com. And I just have to say that, Sam, your name badge, I believe you're a designated difference maker, or your additional label, a rebel.
Or troublemaker. We'll see. I know I designated myself as a life, you'll see even as a 14-year-old kid, I caused trouble. All right, well, anyway, people have to come see the show, which is Dementia Man and dementiaman.com. And one of my goals is for people to bring me my mission. It visits everybody who needs to see the show has a chance to do it. And I have played well traveled. So I live here in Northern Virginia, and I'm going to go all the way out to Louisville, Colorado, outside Boulder to do the show. But I also have a family event out there too. But anyway, I want to thank you too. It's been delightful, and I will work to try to get some good information on our website. Point to your materials as well. Because of this relationship, and I've discovered, I was unaware of the program and feel like we're part of this movement to help people with cognitive disorders find meaning and keep meaning in their lives for as long as possible. So thank you both so much, and hoping to continue to be in touch. And I know I will see you in October.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sam.
Looking forward to meeting you in person.